Looking at question tags. And what are question tags? I'm going to be popping a lot of these commas in this presentation as well as question marks because you tend to forget these two very important punctuation marks when we are forming question tags. Let's look at some examples of question tags. She did not do her homework, did she? He is a lovely boy, isn't he? They want to live like rock stars, don't they? The boys love pizza, don't they? The dog is aggressive, isn't it? Right. Now, the point of a question tag is that you turn a statement into a question and you want to confirm something that you believe to be true. So you are basically looking for agreement. So you are making a statement. She did not do her homework. And then you want someone to agree or disagree with you by adding a question tag. Did she? What's very important here is between your statement and your tag, there needs to be a comma. And you always have to finish your question tag with a question mark. Otherwise, it's not a question. So he is a lovely boy, isn't he? There you can see I am again making a statement. He is a lovely boy. This is what I believe to be true, but I want you to agree or disagree with me. That's why I add my little question tag, comma between my statement and my question tag, ending off with a question mark. They want to live like rock stars. So here is my statement. I want you to agree or disagree with me. That's why I have my tag, comma between my statement and my tag, ending off with a question mark. The boys love pizza, don't they? I want you to agree or disagree with this statement, comma between my statement, ending off with a question mark. And looking at our last example here, the dog is aggressive. That is my statement. I want you to agree or disagree with me. That is why I add my tag, isn't it? And you must have a comma between your statement and your tag. Remember to end off with your question mark. So how do I go about to turn a statement into a question by adding a question tag? First, we have to distinguish between positive statements. For example, Susie loves eating waffles. That is a positive statement. Or, she is a smart girl. A positive statement. Then we also get negative statements. For example, Susie does not love eating waffles. That not turns this statement into a negative statement. Or, she is not a smart girl. Again, that not turns this into a negative statement. So we need to differentiate between a positive statement and a negative statement. Now that you have negative and positive statements sorted out, when we convert a statement into a question, there must be a balance. When my statement is positive, for example, Susie is a smart girl, my tag is always going to be negative, isn't she? When my statement is negative, Susie is not a smart girl, then my tag is going to be positive, is she? So, positive statement, negative tag. Negative statement, positive tag. How do I go about to change my statement into a tag? The first thing I'm going to look at is for my verb to be. If my statement contains any form of my verb to be. We're going to use that to form my tag. Susie is a smart girl. You see, there is an example of a form of my verb to be. I use that. I made it negative. Isn't she? Please note the position of my apostrophe. Susie is a smart girl. This is positive, so I must change that into its negative form. Isn't she? Another example of a sentence that contains a form of my verb to be. Nathan was tired. So easy enough. This was positive, so this one has to be negative. Nathan was tired, wasn't he? And again, look at your apostrophe. We've done this in term 1, so you should know this. And lastly, the twins are good friends. Positive statement. I use my form of my verb to be to formulate my question tag. Aren't they? So that is what I do if my statement contains a form of my verb to be. So if my sentence contains the verb to be, use it. Now, what do I do if my sentence does not contain the verb to be? Then I'm going to use do or does or did to form my tag. For example, Susie loves chocolates. Now, Susie is singular, therefore I'm going to use does. But remember, this is a positive statement, therefore my tag has to be negative. So that then becomes Susie loves chocolate, doesn't she? Nathan played well today. Now just check here. My verb is in the past tense. Now I am going to use the past tense form, didn't, did, in order to form my tag. Nathan played well today, didn't he? Remember, positive statement, negative tag. And lastly, the twins hate shoddy work, don't they? Check here. My subject is plural. Therefore, I'm going to use do. And I have to change that into a negative tag because my statement is positive. Therefore, the twins hate shoddy work, don't they? We're going to look at my pronouns in a minute. What is important for me here is that you can figure out that if I do not have a verb to be in there, I am then going to call in do, does, or did to formulate my tags. So if the sentence does not contain the verb to be, use do or does or did. This is just a quick recap of when do I use do, does, or did. We did this when we looked at questions and how to formulate questions. So just a quick revision. When my subject is singular and I'm in the past tense, or whether my subject is plural, or whether my subject is I, whenever I'm in the past tense, I'm always going to use did. When my sentence is in the present tense and I have a singular subject, he, she, or it, I'm always going to use does. But when my subject is plural, us, they, them, the team, then I'm going to use do. And in the future, will do or shall do. But let's just have a quick look at what they turn into if I have to turn these into negative state or negative words. Did becomes didn't. Did not, didn't. And note where my apostrophe lies. You can't just pop it in any old way you feel like it. It has to be between the N and the T. Does becomes doesn't. And do becomes don't. Will do becomes won't. Watch out for this one. if my statement contains a pronoun, I'm going to use that to form my tag. For example, I worked hard, didn't I? You are stressed out, aren't you? He is a mess, isn't he? She is always coping well, isn't she? The dog destroyed my garden, didn't it? We are having a ball, aren't we? You must stay positive, mustn't you? And they always follow the rules, don't they? So it's easy if my statement contains a pronoun, as in these examples, I'm just going to pop that into the back. And the ever important question mark at the end. Now, what do I do when my statement does not contain a pronoun? Then I must be able to pick the correct pronoun in order to form my tag. So here you're going to have to do a bit more thinking for yourself. I worked hard, that stays, didn't I? And you are stressed out, aren't you? That stays the same. But here, Jason is a mess. Now I have to figure out Jason is a singular male. Therefore, I'm going to use Jason is a mess. Isn't he? I'm not going to say Jason is a mess, isn't you? Or Jason is a mess, isn't she? Jason is a mess, isn't he? Susie is always coping well, isn't she? Or a car is an expense, isn't it? Or Rose and I, here I have a plural subject. Rose and I are having a ball, aren't we? Or the grade 8s, now I'm referring to a whole group, always follow the rules, don't they? So when my statement does not have a pronoun, then I must figure out what is the correct pronoun to use. And again, the ever important, ever present question mark at the end. The final touch that I want to focus on is your punctuation for a question tag. Susie is a lovely girl, isn't she? Jonathan hates clowns, doesn't he? And rugby is a fantastic sport, isn't it? Now I have to show my reader that I am making a statement and then I am adding a tag that is a question. So between my statement and my tag, I always need to insert a comma. Susie is a lovely girl, comma, isn't she? And in order to make it a question, don't forget your question mark. Jonathan hates clowns, comma, doesn't he? Question mark. And rugby is a fantastic sport, comma, isn't it? Question mark. One last note. You will hear that when I read a question tag, my intonation, the way that I use my voice, changes from my statement to when I use my tag. Susie is a lovely girl. I say this firmly and with confidence because this is what I believe. But when I add my question tag, I'm going to have to formulate it in such a way that you are aware that I'm asking a question. Therefore, I'm normally going to go a bit higher and I'm going to ask, isn't she? Another example, Jonathan hates clowns. I say this firmly and with conviction. Doesn't he? When I ask the question. And rugby is a fantastic sport, isn't it? So I hope you can hear the change between your statement and your tag when you use this type of question. I hope you enjoyed question tags and I hope you enjoyed the quiz. and that you found this a useful exercise.